Welcome to this week of Missouri Politics. One full week of campaigning left, and we are joined by someone who's right at the tip of the spear, right? Representative Doug Beck, South County, St. Louis, and one of the biggest Senate races in the state. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Scott. I appreciate you.
So your Senate district would be like, if you're coming up from the boot hill, right? You'd be coming up 55. It's sort of South County, St. Louis, straddles 55 a little bit. Is that right?
Well, it's everything east of 55 all the way up to Lindbergh. Mm-hmm. And then when you get to Lindbergh, it spreads out a little bit. It incorporates Oakville, Melville, Lee May, Afton, large part of Crestwood, Webster Groves, a little piece of Kirkwood, and Brentwood.
Now, you've been on the show a handful of times, and now you're running for Senate. Tell folks a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm married, have 2 kids and 3 grandkids, and 2 of those are identical twin boys that are just turned 2. So they're the joy of my life. We don't get to hold them, since we're in what we're going through right now. But so those are the great things that I see, the blessings that I have. I'm a 34-year member of Plumbers and Pipers Local 562. I work out in the field, actually do construction. I spent 9 years on the Afton School Board, and we did a lot of good things on the Afton School Board. One I would like to mention is when I first got there, we had $1 million in scholarships going to our seniors that graduated. When I left, it was $10 million. Wow. We also incorporated Project Lead the Way, which is a biomedical and engineering strand, pre-K through 12 in the school district, and we're one of the models across the country in that area. And just last year, the high school was ranked number 9 in the state, which is something to be really proud of.
I tell you, one of the things that sticks out to me when I run into you, when you're not legislating, you actually work for a living, like a real job, like the folks in your district do. You actually wake up and actually do real things.
That's correct, and I do that, and I feel like that's part of the reason why I'm running. I fit in the district. I know people, their kitchen table issues. I've been unemployed before. I understand what people are going through right now. And that's part of the reason why our campaign has been mostly based, since this is unprecedented, mostly based in service and trying to help people around us and do as much help as we possibly can. And I think those things are important. I have, however, taken a sabbatical from work since about the end of July to concentrate on this campaign because I do want to win. I take this seriously, and I want to be able to help more people.
So when you're out knocking on doors or meeting with people at different places, what are regular folks that bring it up to you that's on their mind right now?
Well, COVID's the number one thing going on. It just is. It's invading every part of our lives, and people are wondering, when are we going to be able to get back to normal? When are we going to be able to, and especially a lot of our older folks are wondering when they're going to be able to see their grandkids. Things change over time, and people want to know that, and there's a lot of fear and uncertainty going on. That is the number one issue. Crime is always an issue in South County, and that is something that we listen to too. But another big issue, and this played a big part of my district, what we find out is a lot of our older folks that are living in their homes are struggling to stay in there. People on fixed incomes, they're struggling to stay in there, and they feel like they're getting taxed out on the local level, and a lot of that, in my opinion, has to do with the state not doing their part in public education.
Well, property tax hits you St. Louis County folks hard.
Correct, and our people want good schools, and they voted for these things. The problem is the state is underfunding education by about $600 million, and the property taxes wouldn't be as high if the state was actually doing their part, doing our responsibility to our kids. And I would like to bring back the homesteader tax credit. That's one of the issues I would like to look at, and what that would do is give folks a tax credit, especially those people I'm talking about, the seniors, fixed income, certain levels, give them a tax credit at the state level for their property taxes on the local level, and it could help them out so they're not having to split their prescriptions up or deciding what they're going to eat this week or what bills they need to juggle. And I would like to have people have a little bit of dignity, in those retiring years.
It's Dave Schott's watching this in Franklin County. He probably don't mind hearing that too much. Yeah. Let's talk about a couple other things though. When you're out talking to folks, identify you as a labor guy. One thing I've noticed is you see time after time, districts like yours, they'll vote for the minimum wage. They'll vote against right to work. They'll vote for a clean Missouri. But Republicans in Jeff City don't really correspond to those votes. You don't have that problem. You pretty well line up with your district on a lot of those issues. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I worked on minimum wage to increase that. I worked on Prop A, went and got signatures, campaigned on it. Clean Missouri, I also did a Medicaid expansion. Those are all things I actually not only just voted for it, I worked to try to get those things passed, and my district overwhelmingly, all those items they voted for. So I feel like I fit the district, and to answer your question, part is I don't understand the disconnect sometimes of Republicans getting elected, and they're against, the majority of them are against these issues, and yet we can't associate the person with the Democratic Party that these issues are a lot of things that are popular with us. So it's frustrating to see how that happens.
Well, a lot of times I think it comes down in a lot of parts of the state is you're pro-life, pro-gun, they're for you. And if you're not pro-life, pro-gun, they don't want to hear it. A lot of times when Democrats held seats, like in Jefferson County, the McKennas were pro-life, pro-gun senators.
Yeah.
Now, they were agreed with the district on a lot of other things, but those two issues, I think a lot of times in the state, if you're not in agreement with someone on those issues, they don't want to hear the rest of it.
And quite frankly, so I believe women should be able to have the same right as I do to make their own health care decisions. And that's how I look at that entire issue. I own guns, but I also think there should be some common sense things. I don't think that I should be able to go outside here with a handgun and sell it to somebody, and there's no paperwork involved, and everybody goes on their merry little way. And you can do that right now in Missouri. You can sell anything you want, and there's no background check or whatever. Now, when you go to a licensed gun dealer, you have to go through some steps. But I think it's wrong for us to be able to go out there and do that.
You think Lincoln Huff watching this down in Springfield, or Denny Hoskins watching us on 38th The Spot in Warrensburg, you think they might say, okay, this guy's a centrist?
I hope so. I've actually had a couple conversations with Lincoln Huff. Nothing's too in depth.
I hate that for you.
And I hope to be able to work with him. I think he's actually kind of a moderate to my taste. So.
A couple other things here I want to talk about is the Senate, how you approach it. I've watched a lot of people walk across that rotunda and go into that chamber, and it's got to be, as close as you are, a humbling experience to walk into that chamber. That Caskey, Matheson, Webster, Richard, Dempsey, huge names in our state have served. How do you approach that? And then maybe more specifically, the one thing that'll differentiate the Senate from the chamber you're in now is they shut off debate in the House frequently. Now they do in the Senate sometimes as well. How do you look at that?
Well, I look at the whole picture. I was humbled when I was elected to the Afton School Board. I'm humbled every morning when I drive up to the Capitol and I see it. And sometimes that's the best part of my day, is just seeing the Capitol and thinking, wow, what a beautiful building, and I get to serve here, and people put me here, and what a humbling experience that is. The Senate will be just an extension of that. Going into the Senate, I don't want to let the people down. Every decision I make will be based on how I feel this is going to affect the constituents and the people in the state of Missouri. So you're absolutely right. I don't take this lightly. I look at anything that I've ever done in my life as a step up in community service. So the higher I go, so to speak, the more I'm responsible, the more people I'm responsible to. And I think that's important to keep that attitude in mind. So I will try to work with others, and I look at the Senate as a smaller group of people that I can work with. Yeah. I did it on the school board. I was able to build coalitions. I think I have that ability. I've got legislation passed in the House. And I had to help with Republicans. So I had to work. When you're in a minority, you have to work, bipartisan. You have to work across the aisle to get things done.
Well, we hope win or lose, two things. Will there be the corned beef and cabbage at St. Patrick's Day this year?
I think I'm going to try to do that. Well, I'm hoping.
Hopefully.
We'll see where we're at.
And win or lose, we hope you'll come back and talk politics with us here on This Week.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Representative. We'll be right back with our Opinion Maker panel. Representative Louis Riggs makes his This Week in Missouri Politics debut after this.
I'm Ann Wagner, and I approve this message.
I'm Jill Schupp. Here's the truth. I don't support Medicare for all.
Does Jill Schupp think we're stupid? Whose name is on this Medicare for all bill? And this one. It's yours, Schupp. You can't fool us. You pushed for a complete government takeover of healthcare twice.
You deserve a representative you can trust.
We know. That's why we don't support you. Jill Schupp's already shown she's too radical and too extreme for Missouri.
Pay-to-play Nicole Galloway is embroiled in scandal and controversy. Her alleged corruption is shocking. Galloway took nearly $500,000 from an organization whose leadership was convicted of bribery, embezzlement, and money laundering. Missouri's Attorney General said Galloway committed a felony. And now the Board of Accountancy is investigating Galloway for abusing her office for political gain. Pay-to-play Nicole Galloway, a disturbing pattern of corruption. Another shady Jefferson City politician.
The Defund the Police movement is a real threat to public safety and Missouri families. I'm Eric Schmidt. As your Attorney General, I'm standing shoulder to shoulder with law enforcement to put violent criminals behind bars. That's why I've launched the Safer Streets Partnership with federal prosecutors in Missouri to give stiffer sentences to violent felons. That's already resulted in over 300 charges being filed.
Eric Schmidt, Missouri's tough-on-crime law and order attorney general.
Teenager Mike Kehoe washed cars to help his single mother make ends meet. Mike would go on to build a successful business, become a first-generation farmer, guide to passage the largest tax cut in Missouri history, fully fund our schools, and set the foundation for record job growth.
We're going to get through this pandemic, and I'm working every day to create the good-paying jobs Missourians need.
Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe. Leadership, values, common sense.
It's a circus, all right. Jefferson City politicians trying to distract you with an old-school sideshow. Amendment 3, 5,000 words of smoke and mirrors put on the ballot by politicians. The truth? Amendment 3 has lobbyist gift loopholes and lets insiders draw legislative districts that protect their favorite politicians. No wonder judges call it misleading and unfair. Send a message to those clowns. Vote no to their dirty tricks. Vote no on Amendment 3.
It's the Koenig Crush. Everywhere he goes, Andrew Koenig crushes Missouri working families. Koenig opposed a plan to save our good-paying auto jobs. He supported an extreme corporate agenda that could have cut take-home pay for workers. And in the middle of a pandemic, Koenig wants to crush us again by ending protections for people with pre-existing conditions. So look out, St. Louis County. Andrew Koenig's coming to crush you.
Your energy needs are changing. That's why at Ameren, Missouri, we're not waiting on the future. We're building it with the Smart Energy Plan, advancing thousands of projects across the state, helping reduce emissions through cleaner energy sources, boost reliability with self-healing equipment, and better withstand storms with new composite poles. Moving Missouri forward and bringing us all a little closer together. That's energy at work. Ameren, Missouri.
Welcome back this week in Missouri Politics Opinion Maker Panel Time. Jesse Lawder, welcome back to the show, sir.
Good to be here.
Representative Wiley Price, City of St. Louis, welcome back, sir.
Always good to be here.
A couple folks on for the first time. Lane Koch, Republican operative, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
And Representative Lewis Riggs, Marion County, welcome to This Week in Missouri Politics.
Thank you for having me.
Lane, let's start with the debate last night. Now, I have to say, the first one my dad loved, so probably everyone that lives in St. Louis County did not. I thought Trump did very well this week.
I do too. I agree. The first debate was a bit of a snooze fest for me, but last night I thought it was a moment for President Trump. He seemed presidential, confident, and all I got out of Biden was a bunch of fear mongering, and I thought it was a really good night for the president.
You know, Wiley, you're a family that has a long history in the media. The first one was just bad, and I think it was the president's fault. This was an actual debate. I think the debate commission meant to pin Trump in or hurt him with that muting his mic. I thought it helped him.
I thought he was a little bit more measured, yes. Yeah. I just didn't hear much context. I was looking for a plan. I was looking to hear what the future was going to look like, and I didn't really hear much of that. So that was a little not surprising for me, but I did expect to hear some kind of plan in place.
Well, as a politician, you have to be a little jealous, though. If the standard for success is don't be the world's biggest jerk, Trump, I mean, he had the bar set correct, Jesse.
Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't slither under it.
The bar was set very low, but I still think he did a good job.
Well, I think you're absolutely right that the mute button seems to have helped him.
Yeah, it did.
It was much more measured. But I agree with Representative Price. What we really missed last night was any kind of forward-thinking plan for the country out of the president. And I thought what Joe Biden gave us was a vision and frankly, a real response to COVID-19.
So I think most of this campaign has been Joe Biden just not having to screw up, and he probably wins. I thought the debate was almost this whole campaign in reverse, where Trump just didn't need to screw up, and he probably would look like he won.
I think when you compare it to the first debate, that's probably the case. And I think when you listen to folks sort of reacting to last night in the media this morning, that's certainly something that's not lost on them.
Riggs, you're upriver from us in the boot heel. I think it's an interesting balance Trump has to strike. I mean, he has to beat Donald Trump enough, like he was the first debate, to get folks excited in Butler County and spray painting the hoods of old car hoods and thrilled for him. But he's got to do enough not to make everyone in St. Louis County just turn him off. I think that might have been the Donald Trump everybody liked this past week.
I think Trump's problem is that he's unique. in our history. I mean, as far as my lifetime, we've never had another, quote, politician like him because he's not really a politician. At the same time, he has to throw out some red meat for the base. I think he did that in part. At the same time, I think Biden made some good points. I think there was a definite contrast between the two of them as far as a particular energy policy. They got into the weeds on that, actually, which was really interesting for those of us who follow that kind of thing. But at the same time, they did set the bar rather low. I do agree that muting the man helped him. I don't know what lessons he will take from that, if it will be enough the last 2 weeks. And we've had approximately 50% of the people who are going to vote for Biden already have voted. So I'm not sure how many minds it changed. I thought the moderator did a much better job of reining the two of them in. I don't know what they were threatened with off camera, but it was a much more, I think, informative session between the two of them. The first one, I teach argument and debate. I walked in after that and told my students what you saw last night was not a debate. I'm not sure what it was. It was two guys bickering on a national stage. But I thought that was, the both of them had enough content out there that folks who actually were trying to make up their minds had enough there to make up their minds.
Interesting. Let's talk about how this, Jesse, how this fits the governor's race, right? I mean, for Nicole Galloway to make this competitive, it's got to get down to about a 5-point race. I don't think it's rational to think you can overcome 5 points. That's just a huge gap. I would say a good night for Trump probably helps. I mean, I think keep that. I think if I had to guess, that race around 8 points. Trump's kind of hovering just above 5 in the state of Missouri. What would be the case going the other way?
I think the bottom line with the governor's race, and you hit the nail on the head, the governor's race is going to be tied to the presidential. Galloway has been consistently anywhere between 1 and 8 points in most polls you're seeing. The presidential race, Trump is outpacing Parson in a lot of these polls, and I think what we saw in 16 may come back in a smaller frame in 18, where you see the governor's race a lot tighter than the presidential.
You know, I think Nicole Galloway's a pretty good candidate. I mean, I think she'll run better than Biden, but I mean, Chris Koch was a fantastic candidate, and Hillary Clinton might have been the worst possible candidate. In this situation, that margin's going to be closer. Where does Biden have to hold Trump to in Missouri for Nicole Galloway to win?
It's an interesting contrast in Missouri because historically we are a state that votes Republican for our president and Democratically for our governor.
That's right.
So it's a delicate dance in that particular lane. I think advancements for Trump is really an advancement for Nicole in this situation.
What do you think?
I don't agree with you. I don't think Nicole Galloway is a good candidate. I think she's only a good candidate if you look at identity politics alone. Outside of identity politics and choosing a dynamic young woman to run against our governor, Nicole Galloway is absolutely wrong for Missouri. She's barely showing up to work. Meanwhile, our governor is showing up every single day, managing to run the state, working full time. Unemployment is going in the right direction. And Nicole Galloway is refusing to rescind her endorsement for Cori Bush, who is pushing the most progressive views and policies our country and our state has ever seen. And I don't think Missourians are going to be tracking with that line of thinking.
It's interesting. There was something that came up that I thought was really one of the real divisions between Trump and Biden that exists between Galloway and Parson. They brought up, I think Joe Biden wants to make everybody wear a mask or everybody shut down the country and stay home. There is a real difference when you're from where you're from and I'm from. They ain't having any more of that stay home stuff. Farmington tried to shut their town down again and the folks just wouldn't have it. They had to back off it. That is a real dividing thing in the state of Missouri. If you want to be forced to wear a mask, you kind of know who to vote for. I don't know that that's going to play in Missouri for Galloway or Biden.
Well, and you know this, you're a Butler County boy. Every county creates its own weather. And out in God's country, north of I-70, where I'm from, mask mandate is a non-starter. We have merchants who insist on you wearing masks, so you do.
Sure.
But I walked into Walmart the last time, and they had the greeter/guard at the front door to make sure you had your mask on. 2 young gentlemen, early 20s, walked past 10 paces maybe, tore their mask off and were laughing. Like, okay, well it's unique. And from the standpoint of the St. Louis County versus, say, Marion County, where it's just not that popular. People do it if they're asked, but if you mandate it, it's not going to happen. That whole thing, you can win Missouri 109, 110 counties and still lose the state. And I don't know what that dynamic is going to look like for the governor, but from my neck of the woods, the fact he's taken a more hands-off approach, much more measured, has played extremely well. And I look at the Trump effect. South side of Hannibal should be Biden country. And for many, many years, it's been the most democratically leaning ward in town. It is wall-to-wall Trump flags. I've never seen anything like it. And I think that's a warning sign for folks, in the Biden camp in particular. These are folks that you normally would count on. They're not there. And I don't know what that means for the rest of us.
Well, but the interesting thing, in the state of Missouri right now, if you want a mask mandate, if you want the government to tell you what to do, you can have that. Right. You, like Sam Page, Lyda Cruz, and they tell you what to do.
Absolutely.
People here like that.
Absolutely.
The rest of the state, they do not. I just wonder how, you break down the real clear differences in Parson and Galloway that mirror Trump and Biden. One of the main things I saw from that debate, what I saw from the debate between the gubernatorial candidates is Cole Galloway wants to force you to wear a mask. Parson wants to let the local folks decide. How does that play?
Okay, let's do it this way. Parson doesn't want to wear a mask. He caught COVID. Nicole wants to wear a mask. She hasn't. Nobody in her camp has caught COVID.
I think most people say good for both of them, right?
I'm saying, this is a real thing. This is not even. At this point, COVID is not a debate. The masks help. The masks are even stopping the actual flu, the actual regular flu. Those numbers are down right now because of masks. So this is not a debate. We have actual numbers and stats that back this up. So if we want, if we care about life, I think Nicole is a good way to go.
I phrase that well. If it's not a debate, why do those two guys pull their mask off when they walk past the guard at Walmart, though? It's a debate to some folks, right?
Well, you've got three different things working in tandem right now. You've got a political conversation, you have a public health conversation, and you have a governance conversation. Mm-hmm. The political conversation is, as you laid it out, black and white, mask mandate or no. The public health conversation is a lot more nuanced than that. And you know that there are a lot of interventions that can slow the spread. What the governor and frankly the federal government has failed to do is take any nuance into account in their rolling out. Parson has taken a completely hands-off approach and has not armed the counties and local municipalities with the resources and the expertise that they need to make determinations about what is in the best public health interest of their people. And as a result, we've got almost 3% of Missourians having contracted COVID at this point.
Mm-hmm. I think you have to beg the question. I watched Farmington go through this. Mm-hmm. Their health board, they knew best. The sheriff and the county said, we're not writing people tickets. We're just not doing it. Mm-hmm. So they backed down. And after 30 days, folks are just rebelling. There's a little bit of that lead belt that I can identify with. If you ask me to do something, I'll oblige you. If you try to tell me, I'm going to bow up on you.
Mm-hmm. Well, leftists love to tell people that Republicans want to just sprint to completely being open up. No masks, we don't want to be cautious, and that's just absolutely not true. You could go to the governor's Facebook page and Twitter and see countless times where he's saying, be cautious, socially distance, wear a mask. So anytime someone's saying that is not the case, it's just not true, but it is politically expedient to tell people that the governor doesn't want us to be safe. But a pandemic does not happen in a vacuum. So there's more than one thing happening right now. So there are people whose jobs are in jeopardy. In St. Louis County alone, we've had over 40 restaurants that have closed down that will never reopen again. That has a trickle effect in our community. Sure. We have students who have not been being educated in the classroom. They're lacking their chance to potentially go to university and have scholarships because they haven't been able to play in sports. And so there's more than one thing when you're a good governor or when you're a good county executive, which we don't have in St. Louis County, that you have to think about. There's mental health issues. There's people who have been in recovery for years who are struggling with their recovery with addictions because they've been stuck in their home and not able to work. So as a good governor, what Mike Parsons is doing is making sure that he's not just looking at one thing, he's looking at everything that affects the lives of Missourians. And because of that, unemployment is going in the right direction and he's leading our state well.
Rapid fire prediction time. Would this state put up, if you like Biden, you like Galloway, would they do another shutdown? I know St. Louis would, but once you get out of St. Louis, would the rest of this state do a shutdown?
Well, I think that gets back to what I was saying before, which is it's not shut down or don't shut down. There are a lot of different pieces at play.
Louis Riggs, if they try to shut the state down, will folks do it in Marion County?
No. And we've managed to take a pandemic and turn it into an apocalypse. It's not a mass extinction event.
I think we'd explain exactly how quick you get back to Jeff City, and you ought to probably go there.
Well,
prediction: where's Trump going to be in Missouri? +5, +7. Where's he going to be at?
Probably 7.
Where's he going to be at?
+7.
Where's Trump going to be at?
+5.
5 to 7.
Okay, I'm going to use my David Barkley's cheat sheet here. He says 10. I'm going to say 9. If your prediction is true, where does Nicole Galloway hit?
I think she's within 2 points at that point, and it's going to be a toss-up.
Yep. I think that the governor's race will look a lot like Amendment 2.
Wow. What do you think?
I'm not even sure if Nicole Galloway agrees that she wants to defund the police, potentially wants to defund the Pentagon, agrees with that. So
what are you talking about?
Hold on, we're going to get to that in 1 second. Where's Parsons going to end up?
+4 or 5.
+4 or 5? All right. New Cori Bush is going to be the new congresswoman in St. Louis. Mm-hmm. She said defund the police, which a little bit tougher to attract even normal Democrat voters the further outside the city as you get. Mm-hmm. Now she says defund the Pentagon. What does that mean?
Defund the Pentagon means doing exactly what Donald Trump did earlier this year when he took $3.8 billion from the Pentagon and put it towards a border wall. That's defunding the Pentagon.
This has just got to be like the most wonderful political gifts to Republicans, right?
Yes. #blessed, really.
I mean, you can't really explain defund the Pentagon in Marion County.
You can't, and if human history has taught us anything the last 80 years, peace through strength is the way to go. We live in a dangerous world, and we can't be jeopardizing our national security.
Rational people have these thoughts, defund the police. This is something that people espouse. It's going to be tough for Democrats to deal with these tweets.
I think in the short term, absolutely. In the long term, we're starting really important conversations about what this country prioritizes.
We've got to move this conversation then. Who won the week?
Joe Biden. He showed up last night in the debate. I think he's setting himself on a path to victory, and he's got a lot of tailwinds.
Who won the week?
Joe Biden last night, big time. I think that he showed not only a level of calm in both debates, but also insight for the future, a plan for COVID, and just like he said, when he got into the energy plan, he has a plan for the future.
Ambassador O'Malley's going to owe both of you again. Who won the week?
I got to say Governor Parsons. Alex said he's one of the top governors in the entire country, leading a state through the COVID crisis.
Who won the week?
Lindsey Graham. Moved Barrett through the process in the Senate. Yep. We're going to get the floor vote. We don't need a 4-4 tie as the Supreme Court. Those of us who lived through the 2000 election debacle don't want to see that again.
There you go. I'm going to say Rick Stream, the St. Louis County Board of Election. COVID's a big concern in St. Louis County. Early voting's a big concern. They've come with an app that'll tell you how long the wait is where you can early vote at all the half a dozen locations you can in St. Louis County. Really terrific use of technology to help people vote. We hope you'll see us with your technological device next week here for our pre-election edition of This Week in Missouri Politics.
This Week in Missouri Politics, sponsored by the Missouri Association of Career Fire Protection Districts, SPIRE, and Sterling Bank.